I want to tell you a story, but it is not the one you think you're about to hear. This isn't a story about grief. It is not really a story about an affair. This is a story about silence. It is a story about the danger of a perfect, quiet life. I'm going to tell you exactly how the architecture of a comfortable marriage can become a prison, and how the person you trust most can build that prison around you, brick by silent brick, until you're trapped inside. My name is Lauren Williams, and I learned, far too late, that the most dangerous lies aren't the ones people tell you. They are the ones you quietly agree to believe. Let's start with the end. The final result of my 16-year marriage wasn't a messy divorce or a sad, shared decline. The result was a cold garage, a wall of photographs of a man I didn't know, a safe full of criminal secrets, and the horrifying realization that my entire adult life had been a carefully staged performance. I wasn't a wife. I was an alibi. The man I buried wasn't just a cheater. He was a stranger, and his death wasn't an end. It was a trigger, a dead man's switch that unleashed every secret he'd ever kept. It all fell apart on a Tuesday, 4 days after the funeral. But the real beginning, the moment the first crack appeared, was at the funeral itself. The teacups were still warm on my counter when I got the call. The almond cookies I baked, his favorite, sat on the plate, untouched. It was 8 o'clock p. That was his time. Larry was never late. He was calm, successful, and steady. He was the kind of man who made a room feel safe just by walking into it. He never yelled. He brought me flowers on Mondays. Not red roses, but the mixed bouquets he knew I liked. We didn't have children. Life just worked. It was a smooth, polished, predictable puzzle. But what I know now, what I need you to understand, is that predictable is often just another word for scripted. I was living in a play, and I was the only one who didn't have the script. They said it was a massive heart attack. Quick, painless. At least, that is what the kind, distant doctor told me. I remember nodding. I remember my best friend Helen holding my hand, her grip tight trying to anchor me. But I wasn't floating away. I was frozen. The funeral felt like a dream. People in black, kind words, muffled whispers, strangers telling me how great Larry was. I held on. I nodded. I played the part of the grieving widow. Then my sister Olivia arrived. Her perfume hit me first. It was too strong, too sweet. It filled the air in a way that felt like an invasion. Her hug lasted too long. It wasn't comforting. It felt possessive. "I'm so sorry, sis," she said. Her voice was too smooth. Larry was like a brother to me. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But her eyes, when she looked at me, it wasn't sadness. It was something else. It was calculation. Later, in my own kitchen, while she poured herself a large glass of my wine, she said it casually. "Hey, I know this isn't the best time, but Larry loaned me some money. I was hoping to sort that out now that you're taken care of." My head snapped up. The fog of grief just evaporated. It was replaced by something cold and sharp. "What money?" She blinked. Then she smiled. A small, patronizing smile. "Oh, I guess he never told you." That night, I couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet, but the silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was loud. It was ringing with the absence of his footsteps, the absence of his keys in the lock. I walked around, touching the furniture like I was seeing it for the first time. The bookshelves, the shiny floors, the wedding photo in its silver frame. It all felt like it belonged to someone else. And that is when I saw them. Larry's keys, still on the hallway table. I picked them up. The metal was cold, and there it was. The key. I stood up. I'm not going to court. I'm not calling the police. I'm not wasting my life hoping the system will fix this. I looked her straight in the eye. I'm just going to walk away and leave you with everything you thought you wanted. The money, the child, the lies, the one key he never let me use. "You think that scares me," she whispered. "No," I said, "but it will." And I turned, and I walked back inside. I'll explain this to you. This was my final choice. Why not send her to jail? Because the system is slow, and it is messy. The one he kept on his ring but never explained. And it would mean my life would still be about them. About Larry. About Olivia. The only way to win was to refuse to play. I'm leaving her with the prize. The money, which is now tainted and watched. The child who will grow up inside that lie. And the knowledge that I know. That is the real prison. Later that afternoon, I met with Adam Driver. It was for his garage. I gave him the flash drive, a signed statement, and one instruction. "If anything happens to me, send this to the press." Every bit of it. After that, I went home, back to the house I shared with Larry. It was just a house now, I walked through each room. I packed one suitcase. I left everything else. I left the Monday flowers vase. I left the wedding photos, a storage space he rented in an old part of town. I left the ghost of my perfect life. 1 week later, I got on a plane, a new name on the lease. A small cottage near the mountains. I'm telling you this not for sympathy. I'm telling you this as a warning. The trap wasn't the affair. The trap was the surdy comfort tie. It was the routine. It was the 8 o'clock pee. I had asked about it once. Maybe 10 years ago. Dinner and the predictable, quiet life. I traded my curiosity for comfort, and the cost was 16 years. So here is my warning to you. Here are the red flags I ignored. First, if your life feels perfect and steady and no drama, ask yourself, at what cost? Who is working overtime to manage that perfection? Second, the tools and grease lie. If there is a locked door, a locked garage, a locked phone, a locked computer, and you are made to feel silly or paranoid for questioning it, that is your first and loudest warning. There is nothing special in there, Lauren, he'd said with that easy smile. That is not a boundary. That is a secret. And third, silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it is just a very, very well-managed crime scene. My name is Lauren. I'm not the woman who was lied to. I'm the woman who turned silence into strength. I'm the one who walked away. Just tools and grease. You wouldn't like it. And I didn't ask again. This is the first trap. I want you to listen to me. This is the mistake I made. The one I want you to avoid. It is the tools and grease lie. It is the lie that is so boring, so mundane. You feel stupid or paranoid for questioning it. It is just work. It is just a guy thing. It is just my old computer. You wouldn't be interested. 99% of the time. That is a lie. It is a locked door disguised as a boring box. And I didn't push. Why? Because I was comfortable. I liked the simple, quiet, no drama life. I didn't want to be the suspicious wife. I wanted to be the trusting wife. I wanted to be the perfect wife. I realize now I wasn't trusting. I was lazy. I was complicit. My comfort was the price of admission for his secrets. I had, in effect, helped him build the wall. But now, he was gone, and I had nothing left to lose. My comfort was shattered. The next morning, I drove to the garage. The rain was coming down in gray sheets. The building was in an old industrial part of town, behind falling-apart buildings with rusted roofs and weeds growing through the pavement. It was not the kind of place you'd think Larry, my polished, successful Larry, would keep anything. But he came here every Saturday. Getting my hands dirty, he'd say, keeps me balanced. Another lie. The metal roll-up door was heavy. The key made a loud scraping sound as it turned. A sound that felt final. I stood there for a second. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I was terrified of what I might see inside. It smelled like dust and stale oil. I reached for the light switch. My fingers were numb. And then I saw it. It wasn't a garage. There were no tools, no car parts, no grease. It was an office, a secret room. The walls were completely covered. Photos, news articles, hand-drawn charts, travel maps with pins stuck in them. My mind couldn't process it. It was like walking into the wrong life. I stepped inside slowly. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered on with a cold, buzzing hum. One wall had rows and rows of printed pictures, pinned up carefully. In every single photo, Larry was there. But it wasn't my Larry. In these pictures, he wasn't wearing his neat suits. He wasn't polished. He was wearing jeans, casual shirts, messy hair. He looked relaxed. He looked happy. He looked like a stranger. His face was softer. He was smiling. A wide, genuine smile I hadn't seen in years. And in almost every picture, he was standing next to the same woman. She was beautiful, at least 11 years younger than me. Dark hair, sharp, smart eyes. They looked close, too close. Her hand was on his arm. He was smiling for it. Her. One photo showed them at the beach, another at a ski lodge. One was from a camel, somewhere hot and sandy. Some had dates written on the back, in handwriting I knew was his. 8 years ago. 6, 4. One was from just a few months ago. September 2023. That one stopped me. My knees went weak. I had to grab the metal desk in the middle of the room to steady myself. September 2023. I remember that day. I had been at home cooking his favorite dinner, chicken marsala, waiting for him to come back from what he said was a long client meeting. But now I was staring at a photo of him, sitting at an outdoor cafe next to that woman, and a young man who looked to be in his early 30s. They were all smiling, like a happy family. On the back of the photo, Larry had written, Pamela and Frank, September 2023. I sat down hard in the old office chair. My stomach twisted. 16 years. I stood by his side for 16 years. We built a life, or so I thought. Then I saw the papers on the desk. Stacks of files, bank records, company papers, letters from foreign companies, tax forms that didn't match anything I knew about his work. In one folder, I found a medical report. My eyes went straight to the top. Crescent Heart Institute. It was dated less than 3 months ago. I saw Larry's full name, then the diagnosis: ischemic heart disease. Stage 3, high risk of heart attack. He knew he was dying. And instead of telling me, instead of warning me or preparing me, he spent his last days building this secret life with another woman, another family, because that young man, Frank, he had to be their son. The man I buried wasn't my husband. He was a stranger who looked me in the eye the night before he died. He handed me a small velvet box with a sapphire necklace inside. He kissed my cheek, and he said, "You're the only one for me, Lauren." I backed away toward the door. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it was in a vise. My thoughts were spinning. What was I supposed to do? Who was I? A widow. Yes, but whose widow? That is when I heard it. Footsteps. Soft. Careful. I turned around fast, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. And there he was. The young man from the photo. Same dark hair. Same strong jawline. Same sharp, unreadable eyes. When he spoke, his voice was steady, but I could barely hear him over the rush in my ears. "Lauren Williams?" he asked. I didn't answer. I couldn't. "I thought you might come here," he said, stepping inside slowly. "I'm Frank Smith. Larry Williams was my father." Just like that, the floor disappeared. I don't remember what I said. Maybe nothing. I just stood there, holding onto that cold metal desk like it was the only thing keeping me from falling into a black hole. Frank walked closer. He moved carefully, like he knew how fragile this entire moment was. I looked at him. I really looked at him, searching. And there it was. His eyes. They were Larry's. That same deep, quiet, assessing look. "You're really his son," I whispered. "Yes," Frank said, without pause. "And I'm sorry. I never wanted you to find out like this." My voice was barely a whisper. How long have you known about me?" "My whole life," he said, calm, honest. He didn't tell me much, only that he was married, that you didn't know about me. He kept us apart. My mom, Pamela, she respected that. She never wanted to cause problems. But after she died last year, things changed. She was gone, too, just like Larry. My legs wouldn't hold me anymore. I sat back down in that cold chair. "Why are you here?" I asked. "Why now?" Frank reached into his backpack. He took out a folded piece of paper, yellowed at the edges. He held it out to me. "It is a draft of a will," he said. "It is not finished. Not official. My dad, he gave it to me 3 weeks before he died. He said the final version would go to you. But this was just in case." I opened the paper. Larry's handwriting. Steady and familiar. It wasn't signed by a lawyer, just quick writing, dividing things. He mentioned Frank. He also wrote about a company I had never heard of, Mercury South Holdings. Then one line stood out. "Access to remaining documents kept in office vault. Code linked to personal item gifted to L." I froze. Lauren. Personal item gifted to me. The necklace. The sapphire necklace he gave me 3 nights before he died. My hand went to my collarbone, but it wasn't there. I had left it at home in its box. It had felt too heavy to wear. Now it felt infinitely heavier. It wasn't a gift. It was a key. "What is Mercury South Holdings?" I asked. My mouth was dry. Frank took a deep breath. "One of his private companies. It is not public. He used it to move money between countries." He paused. "After my mom died, I started looking into it. There were transfers I couldn't explain. Offshore accounts, with my name on them, but I didn't open them. I think he was trying to set something up. For you, for me, for both of us. Why? Because he knew he didn't have much time," Frank said quietly. "And because he didn't trust the people he worked with." I looked up. "What people?" Frank's face grew serious. He never gave names, just said that if something happened to him, someone might come looking for answers, for control, for what he left behind. I leaned back. My mind was racing. A second vault, a secret company, a necklace that was a code, and a man I loved for 16 years who had built an entire second life I knew nothing about. This wasn't just an affair. This wasn't just a secret family. This was something else, something dangerous. I think he left clues, Frank said, not just for us to find, but to keep us safe. I stood up slowly. My legs were still shaking. I looked around the room. It no longer felt like a memorial to a secret love. It felt like evidence. It felt like a warning. I need to go home, I said softly. I need that necklace. I didn't go home. Not right away. I couldn't. I needed to breathe. I needed an anchor in the real world. I called Helen. 25 minutes later, I was on her couch. The sapphire necklace sat on the coffee table between us like a ticking bomb. I told her everything. The garage, the photos, Pamela, Frank, the will, the secret company. She just listened. She didn't say, "I told you so." She didn't say anything. She just whispered, "I'm so sorry, Lauren." And she reached for my hand, but I wasn't ready to cry. I wasn't ready to fall apart. I was angry. I needed answers. I needed someone to blame who wasn't dead. So I drove to Olivia's. Her condo was in a fancy new building on the north side of town. The kind with underground parking and a front desk. Strange, for someone who always said she was broke. As the elevator went up, I could feel my anger growing. It was a cold, hard knot in my stomach. She opened the door barefoot, wearing silk pajamas and holding a glass of wine. Her makeup was perfect. "Well, if it isn't my grieving sister," she said, with that smug smile. "Come to check out the widow's leftovers." "Cut it out, Olivia," I snapped. I pushed past her into the living room. And that is when I saw it. A framed photo on her bookshelf. Her and Larry, laughing, holding glasses of champagne. The date in the corner made my stomach twist. 6 years ago. "What is this?" I asked, pointing. Olivia walked over slowly. She took a long sip of wine. "Oh, that. A company holiday party. You were too tired to come, remember? Larry wanted me to go with him." She said it so casually, like drinking champagne with my husband while I stayed home was normal. "We always got along so well," she added. I turned to face her. How well exactly? Her smile faded. "I know about Pamela," I said. My voice was low. "I know about Frank. I know about the garage, the fake company, the will. I know everything. So if there is more, you tell me." Now, Olivia's eyes narrowed. She walked to her bar cart, refilled her glass, and spoke quietly. "Fine, you want the truth." She set her glass down. She placed a hand on her stomach. "I'm pregnant," she said, "and it is Larry's." I didn't move. I couldn't speak. My mind just went blank. 11 weeks, she went on. "I found out a week before he died. He knew. He said he'd take care of everything. He even told me he was going to leave Pamela." I froze. "You were still seeing him after Pamela died." Olivia gave a small, cruel shrug. She was never supposed to last. I was always the one who stayed. I felt like I wasn't even in my own body. The walls, the couch, the low hum of her expensive fridge. It all faded. "You slept with my husband," I whispered. She shrugged again. "Don't act so shocked. You had the perfect life, the nice house, the dinners at 8 o'clock while I was barely getting by. Working jobs that went nowhere, always being compared to you, like I was some broken version of the daughter Mom actually wanted." She looked up at me then. Her eyes were sharp. "You were his routine, Lauren. I was his escape." I slapped her before I even knew I had moved. My hand connected with her cheek. Her head snapped to the side. Her wine glass shattered on the floor. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just smiled. "There she is," she said, rubbing her cheek. "The real Lauren, not the perfect little wife. Just a woman who finally knows her life was a lie." I turned away, breathing hard. My hands were shaking. "Why?" I asked, my voice quieter now. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you never would have believed me," she said. "You always thought I was jealous. And maybe I was. But this wasn't about you. It was about me finally getting something for myself." I shook my head. "You didn't just take something. You took everything." She stepped closer. "Say what you want, but the baby growing inside me, he or she is your family, whether you like it or not." My throat felt tight. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. But instead, I just said, "I'll follow what Larry wrote in his will. Not for you. For the baby." The baby didn't choose this. I walked toward the door. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely grab the handle. She asked something behind me. Something about what Larry would have wanted. I didn't answer. Because honestly, I didn't know anymore. The next morning, Frank picked me up. Helen came too. She insisted. "You are not going into your dead husband's secret criminal vault alone," she said, tossing her coat over her shoulder. Larry's office was in a tall glass building downtown. He always called it his satellite space, a quiet place for meetings. I'd never seen it, but Frank had a key card. I'm listed as a co-owner, he said, swiping us through security. The receptionist barely looked up. Larry had built a life so secret, it never needed explaining. The elevator ride felt endless. We reached the 17th floor. Frank led us into a glass-walled office. It was cold, modern, clean lines, sharp corners. No pictures of me, no memories. Just gray walls, sleek furniture, and the faint smell of a cologne I didn't recognize. The safe is behind that, Frank said, pointing to a large, ugly abstract painting. I reached into my bag. I took out the necklace. My fingers found the small clasp. I turned it to the left. Click! A small hidden compartment popped open on the back of the sapphire. Inside was a thin metal plate, the size of a SIM card. Numbers were carved along one side. Frank took it. He slid it into a keypad on the safe wall. There was a low beep. The safe door unlocked. Inside, piles of papers, a sleek black flash drive, a small wooden box, and one silver key with a tag. Bank safe deposit, Federal Trust. Frank grabbed the documents. Contracts, money transfers, financial reports. Some of these names are foreign banks, he said. He wasn't just hiding money, he was moving it, fast. I picked up the flash drive, but I didn't plug it in. Not yet. Then I opened the wooden box. Inside was a ring, simple gold with a small diamond. I gasped. It wasn't my ring. Inside the band was an engraving. And always, not L, for Pamela. Oh my God, Helen whispered beside me. Frank looked away. His jaw was tight. He bought her a ring, I said. My voice was barely there. He was going to propose, or maybe he already did. I couldn't move. I couldn't cry. I couldn't even speak, because right there in the cold, silent office of my dead husband, I finally saw the truth I had been trying not to face. He loved her. Maybe he loved me, too, in his own way. The 8 o'clock P, dinner way, the Monday flowers way. But with her, it was different. She got the real version of him. The one who smiled in pictures. The one who took vacations. The one who laughed. And me. I got what was left. The performance. The well-dressed husband who hid everything behind locked doors. This is the moment, the analysis I want to give you. This is the emotional bottom. It is not the affair. It is not even the lies. It is the proof. The proof that the Findead other life was the Findeverly one. And yours was the obligation. When you find that definitive proof, you stop grieving. You stop being sad. You just get cold. It is a strange, quiet clarity. The world stops spinning. You just see the facts. Then Frank handed me a letter. It was folded neatly. My name was on the front. I opened it with shaking hands. Lauren, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry. I never had the courage to tell you the truth, to say out loud what I should have said years ago. I was selfish. I built 2 lives because I couldn't give up either. And in the end, it cost me everything. I loved you. I know that probably feels empty now. Maybe it always was. But I loved you in the only way I knew how. I wanted you to have peace, to be safe. That is why I left you the papers, the access, the truth. Do whatever you need. Burn it, bury it, tell the world. It is your choice now. Forgive me if you can. If not, I understand. Larry. I stared at the letter until the words blurred. I handed it to Helen. She read it. She passed it to Frank. No one said a word. What was there to say? I want to tear this letter apart for you. I loved you. What does that Twemmen mean? It is a word people use to excuse the damage. I wanted you to have peace. No, he didn't. He wanted 20 himself to have peace. He didn't want the messy, awful human confrontation. He didn't want to face what he'd done. He was a coward. His protection was just a final act of control. We left the office in silence. Not a calm silence. Just the kind that comes when there is nothing left to say. That night, my phone rang. Unknown number. Lauren Williams. A man's voice. Calm, like still water. Yes, I answered. My stomach sank. This is Patrick Duffy. I used to work with your husband. I believe you have something that belongs to me. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do, he said. The documents from the safe. Some of them are about international accounts I helped set up. I think we should meet. I'm not meeting anyone. I said quickly. You will, he replied, because the others Larry worked with. They're not as polite as I am. They won't ask. He hung up. I lay there staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding. This wasn't grief anymore. This was survival. When a criminal enterprise loses its leader, the lieutenants don't mourn. They scramble for control. We weren't widows. We were loose ends. In the morning, I told Frank. His jaw tightened. He called me too, he said. But there is more. He handed me a slip of paper. Someone else contacted me last night. Aaron Paul. He says he is the original source of the money. Larry moved. He said if we don't return everything by the end of the week, there will be consequences. We still had the silver key. The deposit box. We need a plan, Frank said. My mom mentioned a name once. Tyler Posey. Dad's old college friend. She said he was the only one who ever told Larry the truth. We drove 3 hours to Bluffton, to a tall brick house covered in ivy. Tyler opened the door. He was an older man, with kind eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. You're Lauren, he said right away, and you must be Frank. I knew you'd come. Larry told me. If it all falls apart, they'll come to you. He led us inside. The house smelled like old books and pipe smoke. He came back with a sealed envelope. He left this with me. He told me to open it only if both of you showed up. Together, I opened it. Inside was a short letter. And a second will. This one was different. It mentioned the child Olivia was carrying. It said, 30% of my offshore savings will go to the unborn child of Olivia Williams, to be held in trust until age 22. I felt the blood drain from my face. He had planned for everything, even this. Why name the baby but not Olivia? I asked Tyler. Because he trusted the child. Tyler said quietly, not the mother. This was the Ferdy real Larry, the controller, the planner. He was 3 steps ahead, even in death. He didn't trust Olivia. He was protecting his bloodline. It was cold, calculating, and it was our first piece of real leverage. What about the flash drive? I asked. Larry told me it holds records, Tyler said, of every transfer, every person involved. And every crime they committed to build this. If they come after you, don't back down. Helen let out a slow breath. You have something they don't, she said. Leverage. For the first time since Larry died, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like the woman who was lied to. I felt like the one holding the map. We drove back to Brunswick. We went to the Federal Trust. The vault manager led us downstairs. The air grew colder. We were alone with the box. I turned the key. Inside, no cash, no fake passports, just a manila folder, and a photo. The photo showed Larry, Frank, and Patrick Duffy, standing in front of a black SUV, arms crossed, laughing. Behind them stood Aaron Paul. They weren't just business partners, I whispered. They were a team. Frank opened the folder. Inside were pages of signed deals, fake company records, and one document with bold red writing at the top. Paul Blackmail Insurance. He hadn't just left us a mess. He had left us the weapon. He knew his partners would turn. He had built a dead man's switch. We went to see a lawyer. Adam Driver. Honest, quiet, didn't like drama. I told him, not everything. Not the affair. Not Olivia. Just the parts that mattered. The documents. The threats. The accounts. Do you want to press charges? He asked. No, I said. I want protection. We made copies. Digital. Printed. Stored in 3 places. Adam wrote a short, strong letter. We sent it to Patrick Duffy. He called 20 minutes later. You think you're clever, he said, angry. No, I said. My voice was calm. My hands were in read. You are. Because my next call is to the IRS. And after that, Interpol. Silence. Then he laughed. Okay, what do you want? Nothing, I said. Just for you to stop. No more calls. No threats. If you touch me or anyone I care about, the whole file goes public. Every name. Every signature. You don't want that kind of trouble, he said. I already have that kind of trouble, I replied. The difference is, I'm not scared anymore. I hung up. 3 hours later, Aaron Paul called. His tone was smooth. Lauren, I've heard about what you found. I think we got off on the wrong foot. There is no foot, I said. Just your name on dozens of illegal transfers. He gave a soft laugh. All just hypotheticals, of course. I let the silence stretch. Then I said, here's the thing, Mr. Paul. I have nothing left. No reputation to protect. No company to save. And that makes me very, very dangerous. I ended the call. I want you to understand this. There is a terrible power in having your life burned to the ground. You are finally free. You can't be threatened when you've already lost everything. My fear was gone. It was replaced by something cold and hard. But we weren't done. There was still the flash drive. It took me 3 days to plug it in. 3 days to get ready. Frank sat next to me. Helen brought tea. One folder for Lauren. Inside, a single video, dated 11 days before Larry died. I clicked. The screen flickered on. It was Larry, but not the polished man I knew. He looked tired. His eyes were sunken. His shirt wrinkled. "Lauren," he said. His voice was rough. "If you're watching this, I didn't make it. Or, I ran out of time. There is no easy way to say this. You were never the one I needed to hide things from. You were the one I wanted to protect. But I waited too long." He paused. He looked straight into the camera. "There is someone you need to be careful with. Someone you trust." My heart slowed. "It is Olivia." The room went still. "She wasn't just someone I made a mistake with," he said. "It wasn't that simple. She planned this. From the start, the pregnancy, it wasn't an accident. The night I told her I couldn't do this anymore, she changed. She said if I left her, she'd expose everything. The money, the fake accounts, everything I buried to protect you." He leaned in closer. His voice dropped. "I think she killed Pamela. I couldn't breathe." "I can't prove it," Larry said, his voice shaking. "But the timing, it was too perfect. Pamela had just packed her bags. She told me she booked a one-way flight to Porto. Then the crash. One car, no witnesses. They said the brakes failed, but she had the car serviced the day before. Olivia knew. She knew she was pregnant. Pamela didn't. That changed everything." He looked down, then back at the camera. "I was weak, but you're not. If you want to walk away, do it. Take what is yours. Leave the rest behind. But if you decide to fight back, don't do it alone." The screen went black. I sat there, frozen. The story reassembled itself. Olivia wasn't an opportunist. She was a predator. Pamela wasn't just the other woman. She was the first victim. And Larry, he was trapped. He was weak, and he left me to clean it up. Olivia didn't know I had seen the video. Not when I invited her to brunch. Not when I hugged her at the door and told her we should talk like real sisters. She smiled. She thought she had won. She wore a soft blue dress that showed her baby bump. "He kicks when I drink orange juice," she said with a laugh. I smiled, too, but not with my eyes. We sat on Helen's porch. "I'm glad you called," Olivia said. "I was worried you were still angry." "Why would I be angry?" I asked calmly. "Because my husband was sleeping with my sister. Or because he left you a piece of his money." She blinked. The first crack. "Lauren, this is hard for both of us." Larry was confused. "No," I said. He wasn't confused. He was afraid. "Of you." I placed the flash drive on the table between us. Her lips parted. "I know about the money," I said. "The lies. I know he was going to leave you. And I know what happened to Pamela." She stayed still. Then she said, "You can't prove anything." "You're right," I said. "I don't have to."